Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our virtual service today. Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I am your worship associate, Alicia, and it is a joy to be with you virtually today. So who are we as Community Church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. You may look to your weekly email for announcements and more information about our church. Our opening words for this service come from our speaker today, Reverend Melanie Morel-Ensminger.
This is taken from The Continuing Epiphany by my colleague Arvid Straube. Within this bitter century, while smoke choked the air and blood ran in the streets, we had thought the spirit buried under the debris of despair. But divinity is alive, and the spirit moves in green growing things. Within a dark consciousness, lulled by dreams of power over and destruction, we had thought the light of wisdom extinguished. But divinity is alive, and wisdom is rekindled in luminous minds. In our arrogance, we had faltered and fallen, pursuing idolatrous goals. But divinity is alive, and vision inspires humanity anew. In our hearts, we rejoice that the Spirit abides, wisdom shines, and vision beckons again. Divinity is alive, and hope is reborn.
Let us now prepare for worship with our chalice lighting. It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing, "We Light This Flame," from the comfort of your very own home. I will turn it over to Cynthia Ramirez, our Religious Education Director, for our Words for All Ages.
Good morning, everyone. Well, before I start the reading for today, I wanted to, I think you probably saw this announcement in the slides, but also in the Community Matters. The RE the RE programs at all three churches are having a fundraiser. It's called UU Crew of Kids for Change. Your change makes a change. It will last from January 9th until March 1st. The kids voted that the fundraiser will support unhoused people. They will be collecting these donations for Southern Solidarity, which is a grassroots community-based group of volunteers in solidarity with the unhoused in their quest toward liberation. They organize the delivery of food, medical resources, and basic needs directly to the unhoused in downtown area of New Orleans. Their website is southernsolidarity.org. Until we return to in-person church, we can collect loose change. We're talking about any change you have in your pocket, just set it aside and put it. I have a float, so I will show it to you next time that the kids decorated. And you can make your donations through GNOUU on PayPal. When you donate on PayPal, please write Kids for Change in the memo line to make sure the money goes to the right place. So that is our fundraiser for RE this year. So today I'm going to be talking about the Epiphany, or 12th night. The Epiphany is on January 6, 2022, and the 12th night is on January 5th, 2022. The Epiphany signals the official end of Christmas and marks the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist. The name Epiphany is actually Greek and means manifestation, with the date itself being a celebration of God coming to earth as a human in the form of his Son. The date is also when the three kings, aka the three wise men, arrived to meet the baby Jesus after following a bright star to Bethlehem and handing over the gifts of gold to symbolize his royal standing, frankincense to symbolize his divine birth, and myrrh to symbolize his mortality. And in case you didn't know, frankincense and myrrh are both fragrances. Frankincense is a milk-white resin extracted from the baswali trees, and myrrh is a reddish resin from the camphora tree, a myrrh tree. The three kings known as the Magi are called Melchior, Casper, and Balthazar. Some suggest they are meant to represent Europe, Arabia, and Africa. So why is it called the 12th night? In the olden days, Christmas wasn't just a one-day event. It was actually celebrated for 12 days. This began on Christmas Eve, December 21st, and was celebrated every day until the Epiphany. The 12 days began on Christmas Day. That means that January 6th was celebrated just as much as Christmas Day itself. This was a tradition from the medieval period up until the 19th century. Nowadays, the 12th night is when we are meant to put away our Christmas decorations to avoid bad luck for the year ahead. If you miss this date, some say, to avoid bad luck, you need to keep the decorations up until Candlemas on February 2nd. The ecumenical patriarch Bartholomew I of Constantinople, spiritual leader of the Orthodox world, holds a wooden crucifix during the Epiphany Day ceremony in Istanbul. While the Catholic Church marks the Epiphany for one day, many Protestants mark the season of Epiphany from January 6th up until Ash Wednesday and beginning of Lent. When marking the Epiphany season, the last day of Epiphany is called Transfiguration Sunday. Now, some celebrate the Epiphany on different dates. The Orthodox Christians celebrate the Epiphany on January 19th rather than January 6th. And the name of the celebration also depends on where you are. If you live in the Spanish-speaking world, the Epiphany is known as the Three Kings Day, or El Día de los Muertos, El Día de los Reyes, which my family celebrates. The Epiphany traditions, one is a man holds a wooden cloth after retrieving it from the sea during the Epiphany ceremony in Greece in the northern port of, it's a very Greek long name. So Pope Francis is expected to hold the annual Holy Mass for the Epiphany at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, but elsewhere there are some more curious traditions. In some countries like Mexico, a baby, a Jesus figurine, is hidden in a break, and somewhere, whoever finds it must throw a big party on Candlemas. And New Yorkers hold an annual parade with camels, puppets, floats at the El Museo de Barrio. Meanwhile, in Europe, children have been known to leave their shoes outside to be filled with gifts and leave straw out for the king's camels. Eastern Orthodox priests throw a cross into the sea in Bulgaria, where men compete to dive in and fetch it. Now, in New Orleans, it is the beginning of carnival season, and of course, the return of king cake. Laissez bon temps relais, y'all.
Let us be together in a spirit of quiet reflection and meditation. Our Epiphany meditation is adapted from George Kimmage Beach. The story of Epiphany, like the story of Christmas, begins with a journey. The Magi travel a great distance from their homes in the east to bring gifts to Jesus and his family in Bethlehem. Think of this as the journey of our own lives. Think of what we must leave behind. Think of what we seek and what we bring. Although far from home, might we be blessed as Mary and Joseph and the Magi were blessed? Might we become a family of families, a people made well and whole as they became a holy family? Might we be both givers and receivers of gifts as they were? God of justice and peace, you go before us like a star, and we follow after on adventure. We leave behind the security of our homes and the cares of our labors, being unsure of the outcome. We feel a little afraid, a little excited, a little hopeful, a little worried. We pack a few necessities, courage most of all, and go. Yours is a word of promise. Something good will come of this, but there's no telling exactly what. We wonder, can we leave the security and cares of the familiar for the sake of an unknown gift, a blessing yet to come? Full of questions, like the Magi, like Joseph, we go. Full of acceptance for what lies ahead, like the Magi, like Mary, we go. God of Epiphany, Holy Spirit of this season, we leave behind all that holds us back from your adventure, the risk of life for the sake of love. Our travels will come to an end. The cares of home and work, of birth and growth and death will reclaim our days. But the journey itself is without end. May we venture to live for love's new being. And may this season bring us the gifts of Epiphany, courage and adventure, love without fear, justice and peace. So might this be. Amen.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you have a need to share with this community, whether it be expressing something that weighs heavy on your heart these days, or letting us know what reason there is to celebrate, please write your message in the chat box to be read out loud after our musical interlude. If at all possible, if you're watching our YouTube stream, please leave your comments there as we are having some difficulties bringing up the Facebook stream.
Jim O'Neill requests healing energy and prayers for Vera to relieve her pain and get her through kyphoplasty surgery on Tuesday.
And Liz Trotter lets us know that Rosa Diaz and her 4 children all came down with COVID this week. So let's keep them all very much in our thoughts. Michael Martin has both concerns for everyone in the Bayou and River parishes still suffering from Hurricane Ida. Yes, the recovery is very, very much still going on. And we will light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put words to. Know that we love you, and we are here for you, and we hold you in our hearts. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us to do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online at ccuunola.org/stewardship, or you can give by text to 504-370-2659. Just text the word give. You can also send us a check at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124.
Our reading this morning comes from Clark Dewey Wells. Several years ago, and shortly after twilight, our 3.5-year-old tried to gain his parents' attention to a shining star. The parents were busy with time and schedules, the irritabilities of the day, and other worthy preoccupations. Yes, we see the star. Now I'm busy. Don't bother me. On hearing this, the young one launched through the porch door, fixed us with a fiery gaze, and said, "You be glad at that star." I will not forget the incident or his perfect words. It was one of those rare moments when you get everything you need for the good of your soul. Reprimand, disclosure, and blessing. It was especially good for me, that surprising moment, because I'm one who responds automatically and negatively to the usual exhortations to pause and be more appreciative of life. Fortunately, I was caught grandly off guard. So ends our reading this morning. During this week of crazy temperature swings, I was running to the car and I happened to catch a glimpse of the rose bushes on the side of our house. We live in Gentilly Terrace and Gardens, where many of the rose bushes are older than the houses. Somewhat to my surprise, one of the bushes was completely covered in red, lush, velvety roses. The grass beneath the bush carpeted in deep, deep crimson. I felt warmed by the sight. It surprised me. It caught me in my tracks. It reminded me of the old story I learned as a little Catholic girl about Saint Elizabeth of Hungary, who was carrying bread for the poor through a forest in winter when she was accosted by hunters who thought she was stealing, and opened her cloak to reveal a tumble of roses falling to the snowy ground. Well, I wasn't carrying bread and the ground wasn't snowy, but still, that rosebush caught me. I don't know if any of you have had your hearts lifted by unexpectedly coming upon flowers this week, or maybe by a flash of the bright moon behind trees, or even a beautiful shining star. In the eloquent directive contained in our reading, we should all be glad at these glimpses of wonder. On the Christian liturgical calendar, Thursday, January 6th, is celebrated as the day the Magi visited baby Jesus and delivered gifts indicative of his status as a divine presence. In some traditions, it's January 6th, not Christmas Day, when children receive their gifts, so that they get presents on the same day that baby Jesus supposedly got his. Here in New Orleans, as we all know, January 6 marks the official beginning of the carnival season and is celebrated with traditional king cake, inside of which is a tiny plastic baby doll representing baby Jesus. If this were normal times, we would have the first of many king cakes at coffee hour. And whoever got the baby today would be expected to bring the king cake next Sunday. But these are not normal times. Still, we mark Epiphany with this service, and I hope many, if not most of you, will enjoy several delicious king cakes this season. There are many informal names for January 6th. Feast of the Magi, King's Day, Little Christmas, Old Christmas, the 12th day of Christmas, and so on, but its formal designation liturgically is Epiphany. In the dictionary, Epiphany means a sudden revelation of something, a comprehension of reality by means of a sudden intuitive realization. It comes from the Greek epiphaneia, meaning to manifest, to show forth, to appear. For Christians, the Epiphany is the realization by the Magi that Jesus was God. But this understanding about Epiphany being connected to realizations of divinity is not part of the word's actual definition, and should not trouble religious liberals who realize that there are many, many ways to have an epiphany, from bright shining stars to winter blooming red roses. One of the ways that Unitarian Universalism differs from fundamentalist Christianity is biblical biblical literalism. The belief that everything in the Bible has to be accepted as literally, historically, factually true. Other Christians, somewhat more progressive, while possibly not accepting everything biblical is factually true, feel duty-bound to come up with logical, scientific explanations for the scriptural stories. Thus, we see people explaining the great star in the nativity stories by attributing it to a supernova or a comet or some other actual cosmic event. Other people go to great lengths trying to find an actual slaughter of the innocents somewhere during the reign of King Herod. You think somebody would have written it down. Or trying to figure out exactly which countries or areas the wise men came from. For me, as a religious liberal, there is absolutely no problem for me to declare confidently that there were no announcing angels, no great star or supernova, no astounded shepherds, no wise men, no gold, no frankincense, no myrrh, no slaughter of the innocents, and no prophetic dreams, no census during the reign of Caesar Augustus, and in all likelihood, Jesus was not born in Bethlehem. There was no exile in Egypt and no return later to Galilee. Every single bit of the Christmas story so familiar to us can easily be explained as elements of the Jewish Messiah expectation tradition, retroactively applied to Jesus well after his execution by the Romans. And if you'd like to read more about this, I highly recommend Liberating the Gospels by the late John Shelby Spong for an in-depth look at how the Christmas story fits with Jewish messianic myth. The fact that no part of the Christmas and Epiphany stories is literally true does not stop me from seeing all parts of that story as true in an emotional, non-literal, mythic way. A way that conveys deep meaning and resonance, not just for me, but for millions of people for over 2 millennia. I'm not a literalist, so for me the story of the visit of the Magi can be religiously true, spiritually true, without having to be historically true. The Christmas story, historically inaccurate as it is, reminds us in a powerful way that all births are magical, that all babies are special, born with the potential to change the world for the better, and that we should greet all of these newborn saviors-to-be with joy and provide them with a peaceful and safe world. In that sense, the Christmas story is deeply and wonderfully true. The Epiphany story is also deeply true for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. The Epiphany story, though not factually true, reminds us that when something is beautiful and brings joy, it draws folks from all over to notice and witness it. That we have to be awake and aware, or we'll miss flashes of insight and bursts of divinity that are all around us all the time. And that when we find the good, we should honor it with our gifts. And we are sadly reminded that there are still forces in the world that desire destruction and death and power over instead of community and life. You do not have to seek very far to find evil Herods who murder children, or to find places where blood runs in the streets and poisonous smoke chokes the air. We live in times, just like Jesus did, that are filled with authoritarians who desire power over at any cost and oppress the vulnerable. These things are true and can be experienced directly and personally and indirectly through the power of media. But we also live in times where hope is nurtured and kept alive, even by people at the margins for whom the concept of resilience is a cruel joke. The Spirit moves in green growing things, and visions are a light in luminous minds. Clark Dewey Wells is right, of course. Sometimes we need a strong reminder in order to receive a sudden revelation. Sometimes, somehow, something happens that forces open the cloudy window of our perceptions, and we find ourselves in a state of inexplicable joy. Children are much better at epiphanies than most grown-ups. They can be so easily pleased and delighted. For them, the world is filled with strange new wonders, and they call to us, "Look, look!" What's sad is that a lot of the time when we adults do look, we don't see what they see. Unfortunately, many of us grown-ups have adjusted ourselves to a mundane world without epiphanies. But we can be awakened. We can be awakened with a reminder. And that reminder can come in the form of a child's injunction, or it can come disguised as a rose bush blooming out of season. It can come just as well in a book or a movie or a TV show. Look, if you're not experiencing epiphanies while watching Ted Lasso, you are not watching it right. You can have an epiphany at work or at a party. I love the story of our founding minister, Parson Clapp, getting an epiphany of universalism at a parishioner's party. I've got to tell you that story sometime. You can even have an epiphany at a concert. I once had a powerful epiphany at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. It can come in a worship service, although, sadly, that seems to be the least likely place for a lot of people. An epiphany can come to you when you're alone or when you're in a crowd, while you're doing something pleasant, or even while you're doing something repetitive and boring. Here is my dear friend, the late jazz poet Ron Kachia, experiencing an epiphany while folding laundry. And then it comes, not with a flourish, but quietly, one Sunday night. The radio is on. You're home alone, folding laundry. And then it happens, unannounced, simply you notice something. Your back doesn't hurt. Your ears have stopped ringing. There's no anxiety in your body. There's no place else you want to be. You are unchasing and unchaste. Even your neck is loose. And you, believer, are enjoying folding clothes. Though you are not exactly happy, not the way you expected happy to be, you are at least enjoying folding clothes. The table glistens. The walls radiate a warmth. The warm towels like you. No, they love you. The towels you are folding may even love you. The whole room, it seems, is suspended in a state of affection. And finally, you don't feel alone. Oh, it comes quietly. This moment, it is so fragile, so elusive, and it could be gone in the morning, but it is here now, this small, shy victory over inexpressible pain. Thank you, Ron. On this Sunday after Epiphany, I urge you to heed the call of that demanding 3.5-year-old and be glad at that star. Notice that rose bush. Be thrilled by a sunset. Be thoroughly charmed by a baby's perfect tiny hand. Be totally captivated by the feel of your warm laundry out the dryer, the taste of food, the sound of music, by the love you feel in your family and community. Be awake, be aware, be present. Be caught off guard. At every moment, God, the Spirit, the universe is trying to surprise and delight you with something wonderful, something that can bring you joy, but only if you let it. So please, please do. So might this be. Amen, Ashe, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, blessed be.
Silence of this roses
Our words for benediction come from humanist Kenneth L. Patton from his book, This World, My Home. Nothing is strange to the child, for whom everything is new. The child does not yet know what belongs and what does not. Therefore, for children, all things belong. The ear of the child is open to all music. The mind of the child is open to all tongues. The being of the child is open to all manners. In the child's country, there are no foreigners. May we learn from the spirit of the child to welcome all people, to be open to all the wonders of the world, to find all things new, to notice and be glad for all the stars that shine. Our service here is ended, but service in the wider world remains our continuing responsibility and an ever-renewing source of joy. Go from here and make peace. May we be together again soon.